everybody, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead, and I am back to read another chapter out of Bears Aventures, the D.J. Dillon series by Lee Roddy. Uninvited picnic guests. Stony Ridge was a working man's town, so the annual Labor Day picnic was one of the biggest events of the year. Everyone came to the only city park, a block square area of trees and lawns with an old Shea logging engine display near the comfort stations. I'm not sure what a comfort station is. I don't know if that would be bathrooms, if that would be a place where you could get drinks and maybe there was benches. I don't know. Sam Dillon, DJ's dad, wore his bright red cowboy shirt with lime green pants, a pair of red and green cowboy boots, and a quality maroon colored Stetson hat with a rolled brim. DJ couldn't help smiling at the way his father strutted. Even Alfred noticed it. "Your father looks like one of those little fighting banty roosters," Alfred said, biting into a handful of potato chips. "I sure hope he doesn't get into a fight," DJ said thoughtfully. "He's probably still mad at Paul Stagg. Dad blames him for the way Mrs. Hagan turned him down on the night he proposed. And when Dad gets mad at somebody, he stays mad until he has a chance to get even. A vindictive nature?" Alfred observed owlishly, twisting his head to see the crowd through his thick glasses. DJ was surprised to find he was a little bothered by the way Alfred used big words. Though DJ knew a writer had to understand all kinds of words, he didn't much care for his friend using words that he didn't know. He'd have to remember to look that one up. But what bothered DJ the most was the realization he was getting upset over little things. Alfred's eyes stopped moving over the crowd. "Speaking of getting even, isn't that Nell's Abbess over by the free soft drink tub?" DJ turned to shade his eyes against the sun. "That's him all right. I'm surprised he showed up here. Oh, you might notice that I have my hand in a brace. My wrist is hurting very bad today. If you think about it, I could use your prayers." Let's see where we were. "Well, at least he can't try to take away our cub from us." DJ glanced sharply at his friend. Alfred had always called Coco "your cub" until just now. "Had to leave him home with my dog and hounds. You know, DJ, I've thought of something that worries me a little." "What's that?" Alfred stuffed more potato chips into his mouth, chewed noisily, and then swallowed before answering. "What's to keep Nels from stealing Coco?" That's an interesting thought. "You mean kidnapping the cub?" "Why not? I wouldn't put it past him, especially since you won't give the bear up when Niles tries to take him." That thought had never occurred to DJ. He tried to put the idea out of his mind, but it stuck. Alfred said he was going to get a free soft drink and ran off to the right. DJ walked over to where Dad was watching the old-time fiddlers practicing under the elm trees. Dad was talking to one of the waitresses where the lumberjacks ate. Lumberjacks would be men that worked in the woods cutting down trees for lumber. She chewed her gum with her mouth open and laughed loudly at something Dad said. DJ saw Mrs. Higgins nearby helping tamp, that's to push down, rock salt in the ice cream freezer, which meant some men were doing the turning of the handle. She was smiling and talking to the woman putting a red and white checkered tablecloth on one of the park tables. Yet the boys saw Mrs. Higgins' eyes flicker to Dad and away. Suddenly, something struck DJ's chest. Glanced down to see a piece of ice bounce from his short sleeve white sports shirt onto the grass. So, a piece of ice hit him in the chest. He turned in time to duck a second piece of sailing ice, through the air towards him. "Priscilla, you cut that out." DJ's voice was louder than he intended. The moment her hand had released the second piece of ice, the 9-year-old girl had turned away. At the boy's cry, she slowly turned her head back toward him. "Were you speaking to me?" she said innocently. DJ cut his eyes sharply to the side without moving his head. Mrs. Higgins had turned around and was looking at him and her daughter. DJ hesitated, knowing that nobody had seen Pris throw the ice. He felt foolish as several people turned to stare at him and the girl. DJ knew it looked to everyone as though he was being very unfair to Pris. A little laugh behind made the boy turn around, though it was always risky to turn his back on Pris. But she wouldn't do anything while people were watching. "Somebody picking on you, DJ?" Kathy Stagg asked teasingly, shaking her reddish-colored hair away from her blue eyes. "It's okay." For a moment, Kathy seemed about to say something else, for a teasing light remained in her eyes. Then her eyes grew serious. "You about ready for school?" "I am as ready as I'll ever be." "I can hardly wait," Kathy said, sitting down at the end of the bench attached to the picnic table. "For the first time in my life, I'm hoping Dad won't move before the school year's over." "That's good," he said. "You going to bring your cub and dog to the school with you?" Her blue eyes lit up again, and he knew she was teasing him. He didn't like it. "On special occasions, sure." "I'm surprised you didn't bring them to the picnic." DJ didn't know what to say. He just wished she'd go away and leave him alone, and yet he liked seeing her too. It was something he couldn't explain. "I hear the cub's growing like a summer weed, gaining maybe 10 pounds a month, I guess. Going to be a big one next spring when the movie people come around. You still counting on that, aren't you?" Kathy looked thoughtful. "It'd be interesting to see how a movie is made. Of course, I'd like to have a small part in it in that film, but there's no way of knowing what will happen. The Chamber of Commerce at Indian Springs is going to help line up the extras, and everybody around here will want a part. Your father can help you get a part, can't he?" "He's just a contact man. He has nothing to do with who gets hired for a part." "Well, I'm expecting to get a part with Coco. In fact, Alfred and I taught the cub to walk on his hind legs like a person, carry a small American flag on a staff in his left paw, with his left paw over his shoulder, and salute with his right paw. So the bear can hold the flag here and salute. That's pretty cute." I'd like to see that. The boy felt proud of that trick and expected Kathy to be impressed. Instead, she frowned and didn't answer. DJ added, "When Coco and I are in that movie, people all over the world will see and know I've got a pet bear." Wow. Kathy stood up. "You're not going to keep that bear until spring, are you? Going to keep him forever?" Kathy said, "When I asked you to help trap old Satchelfoot alive so his sore jaw could be treated, and then he could be released into the high country to live his natural life, didn't I?" "Didn't do it for you," he said weakly. "Did it because it was a good thing for that old outlaw. Then don't you think that it's a good idea to do the same thing for the cub? Turn him loose? He'd starve. In fact, he'd have died back there when he was a little fellow if I hadn't saved him." "How do you know he won't survive if he's returned to the wilds? After all, he's a wild animal, and you've taken him from his natural grounds to raise him like a dog or a cat." DJ felt himself getting annoyed. Coco loves the city. He loves to come to town. He likes being around people. And when I take him for a walk in the woods, he can hardly wait to get home. A regular city bear, is he? Now that you mention it, yes, he is. Suddenly, loud voices stopped the discussion before it got any warmer. DJ realized Dad's angry tones even before the boy saw a curious crowd closing a circle around Dad and someone that DJ couldn't see. But DJ knew who it was even before Kathy exclaimed, "That's my father's voice!" She ran off. DJ raced past her and pushed his way through the circle of picnickers. Dad had thrown his hat into the ground in front of Paul Stagg. Dad stood with his left leg forward and his left fist up and his right fist drawn back. The pastor's open hands were up, palms facing Dad, trying to calm him. DJ felt sick inside. Dad was always getting into fights and arguments, even against a man who stood more than a head and shoulders above him. Mrs. Stagg pushed through the crowd the same moment DJ and Kathy got there. Mrs. Stagg rushed up to her husband, asking, "Paul, what on earth?" The big man used his right hand to gently push her behind him. Like this, I guess. But his eyes didn't leave Sam Dillon's angry face. "Now, Sam, let these good people go on with their picnic, and you and I'll go sit in the car and talk like gentlemen." Dad yelled, "We'll do no such thing. I thought you were a bear hunter and a hound dog man, so I liked you. But then you got to meddling in my business, and I don't like it, not one bit. Sam, I know you don't believe me, but I don't have any idea what you are talking about. I'm talking about turning this town into a place where everybody's getting religion." Paul tried to smile gently. "If you mean that I'm trying to lead people to the Lord and help them have the kind of life He wanted, then I'm guilty. Well, watch who you're filling with those ideas." DJ wanted to interfere, but he'd already done that once. Dad had backhanded him, hit him with the back of his hand, and then jumped on the other man before the sheriff deputies arrived. It had taken 6 of them to put Dad in the patrol car, or the police car. Sam, I know who you mean, but let's not discuss it here. Why don't we step over someplace where we can have a little quiet? A child's scream broke into Paul's sentence. Ah! Everyone turned back to the sound. Through the hole that opened in the crowd, DJ saw a little girl about 5 years old. Wow, I wonder if any of you are 5 years old. Standing on top of a picnic, she was shrieking hysterically. Ah! An empty ice cream cone gripped in her hands. The scoop of ice cream lay on the redwood bench. A cinnamon-colored young bear was enthusiastically licking the ice cream. That scared the little girl. Coco! DJ raced across the grass, followed by a screaming woman who he guessed was the child's mother. The boy grabbed the broken chain and pulled the cub firmly away from the last signs of the ice cream. Coco bounced playfully against DJ's legs, smearing ice cream on his clean pants. The woman picked up her child, quieted her, and then turned to DJ. Hush, hush, honey, it's okay. You ought to be ashamed, she cried. That beast could have killed my girl. Look, ma'am, he broke his chain, see? And he wouldn't hurt anybody. He's just a cub who loves people. Look how he's playing with my shoe. He's trying to eat your foot off. I'm going to have the law on you. Where's a deputy? Anybody see a deputy? The woman turned away, angrily pushing her way through the crowd, holding her daughter in her arms. Come on, Coco, DJ whispered, bending to pick up the cub. He was getting to be quite an armful. Let's get out of here till things calm down. The boy ran across the park, ducking behind some junipers that hid him from view. DJ ran until he couldn't hear anybody following him. Then he sank down behind a memorial monument. Oh, Coco, what am I going to do with you? Dad said I'd have to get rid of you if you got into mischief. Now look what you've done. Suddenly, angry shouts and screams erupted from back of the picnic. Oh no, DJ cried. Trouble! And that was the end of chapter 6. Wonder what's happening. Chapter 7, this is the title. Secret Threat to the Cub. Ooh, a threat. That's when something bad could be going to happen to the cub. Well, we'll learn more about that tomorrow. I hope you have a good day or a good night, whichever it is, when you're listening to the story. And I want you to remember, I love you, but even more importantly than that, God loves you. So, good night, and God bless.